Hey everyone, welcome to another book review. It's been a while since I've done a book review, and I recently picked up a book that, well, could be a game changer. I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that often, but in the hobby, there has been a huge push toward fancy serial numbers, and there just isn't a whole lot of information out there until now. Um, Armando from the Vault left a comment talking about a particular book, and I was like, well, what book is this? I've never heard of that. So I suggested to him making a video. And he did. He made a quick little video on it, and he showed the book. And I saw the book, and I decided I was going to order it and see what was going on. Whenever I see a new book, I'm usually very critical, especially when it's a guidebook and especially when it's about subjects that, well, you know me, I go after eBay scammers. I go after people claiming stuff is worth a ton of money when it's not. So when I ordered the book, I'll tell you, I was very skeptical. But I had to see the information in the book. I had to find out if this was on the up and up. And I was pleasantly surprised. What am I talking about? I am talking about this. This is it says 2022, The Green Guide of Fancy Serial Numbers, a Beginner's Guide by R.B. Edgar and Alan A. Moss. All right, so what is this really? It's exactly what it says. A guide for fancy serial numbers. It goes through virtually every single fancy serial number you can possibly imagine. It covers more than that. When you start the book, it talks about the hobby itself. It talks about how notes are printed. It goes into in-depth. There's all kinds of pictures. There's a grading scale in here. Talks about the auction sites and stuff. There's a huge section on working with the tellers. And then you get into the actual notes themselves. Now, I'm just going to pop into the middle here and see what we've got, just to give you an idea of what's going on. Each note has an example of the particular given serial number. They show you the example here. They tell you how many times this particular example will reoccur out of the 100 million possible printings. To me, that's ridiculously important. To know how many there are out of how many were printed. It doesn't matter how many times they reprint numbers. That number doesn't change. How often do you find one of these per 100 million? That's important. They also put a rarity scale there as well, so that you don't have to do the math yourself. At a glance, you can see that. And then they put a price that says OFV, which is over face value. So you get an idea of how much something is worth. Now, the part that made me skeptical is when you go through this and you see every little green section here is a different note, okay? And when they come up with this many different ideas for what fancy serial numbers are, now all of a sudden I'm starting to wonder, because they aren't all worth anything. So why would you go through the effort? But the thing is that when they do this, 0, 0, 0, 0, they are simply categorizing every single type of potential fancy serial number. Now, a lot of you are familiar with Paper Money of the United States, done by Arthur L. and Ira S. Freeberg. And you know that they categorized all the different notes and gave it a number, an FR number. The FR stands for the Friedbergs. If I was to say this note is FR 106, you can look up to see what note I'm talking about. Well, that categorization has also been done by these guys. Now, they call their things currency systems. They've got a YouTube channel as well. So all of their numbers are CS numbers. Let's see, this one here would be, I don't know if I can get it in the page here now. My thing is here. We'll look on this side. So you can see CS repeating doubles number 1, CS repeating doubles number 2, They are all categorized, and by going through this, you'll understand all the different ones. You can see right here on top. Here's the actual category. For CS repeating doubles is actually CS 350. And once again, this is just a random pick out of all the different things they have in the book, because I'm not here to show all of the information that they gave on this book. I'm here to show the book. So yeah, a book like this, just incredible when it comes to categorizing notes. They come up with virtually every single type of fancy serial number you can imagine. They give it a categorization number so that you can look up and verify, and you can talk with one another to know you're talking about the exact same thing. They give a rarity for it. They tell you how many you're going to find, which is crucial. And they also give a value where applicable. And they are not afraid to write down that 0. There are hundreds of notes in here that are categorized that are still worth 0. Why? Because they're so common. And I say that all the time when I go through stuff. When I go through my eBay scammers, I constantly talk about how easy it is to find certain things. Well, now you don't have to take my word for it, because somebody finally did the math. Because they did the math on it, here it is all in one book. You get to see examples of every single type of fancy serial number, all its rarity, and potential value. Now, I'm not saying that the values that are listed here are the one and true only value for the note. In fact, some of the values have a fairly wide price range. I've seen values on a specific note that says this note is worth between $25 and $500. Okay, well, that's a huge range. But it's also telling you that the note is worth more than face value. Fancy serial numbers, based on the popularity at any given time, are going to fluctuate in value. They continually print more notes, and since a fancy serial number isn't an error, it's just a sequence of numbers, they are constantly still printing more fancy serial numbers. So it's not like they're done printing fancy serial numbers. There's always going to be more. So the ebb and flow of the hobby itself is going to dictate the actual value. But by them giving larger ranges like that, it gives you a fair judgment as to whether something is worth more than face value. And like I said, with the abundance of zeros written in here, it tells you exactly what is and what isn't worth more. There's a bunch of zeros. There's also a bunch of 0 to 5s. So yeah, they were very fair in how they did it. And like I said, I bought this expecting to just crush them and saying, no, this is not worth anything. No, this isn't worth anything. They went above and beyond to not overvalue things that are extremely common. And for that, I commend them. Now, as great as all of that is, they also included another section in the back. This is about error notes. It doesn't give any prices or anything else like that, but it does discuss all kinds of different types of errors. They gave the errors CS numbers as well. They discuss stamps, as in regular stamps, as in Where's George stamps on there. Just all kinds of different things. Star notes they talk about in here. There's a whole appendix for star notes, so you can check to see, I believe you can see which ones are actually rare based in the appendix. And yeah, so much information in this book. So I highly recommend picking up one of these. Great source of information. If you're new to fancy serial numbers, you're going to learn what certain notes are actually called. But you're also going to learn that if you probably don't know what it's called already, it probably doesn't have any additional value. Once again, as far as pricing, I am not going to back their prices. I don't back anybody's prices on fancy serial numbers. But they do give a broad range, and that is the important part. You know the lows and the highs as far as what something could potentially be worth. So that's what I've got for you guys this week. The Green Guide of Fancy Serial Numbers, a Beginner's Guide by R.B. Edgar and Alan A. Moss. I'm going to put a link down below to their eBay page where they are selling this, so you can scoop one up. It's like $20 or something, and very, very good add to your collection. All right, guys, that's what I've got for you this week. If you learned anything new, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. Love reading your comments. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.